Speech-language pathologists may sometimes find themselves not particularly looking forward to seeing a certain client or student, and very often that has actually nothing to do with the person themselves, but rather the SLP's own confidence in the treatment they're providing. And I think that happens a lot with SLPs treating people who stutter, adults and children. And that's something we want to change. And I think one of the most important factors in developing a treatment plan for an adult or child who stutters is determining what their actual daily struggles with communication are. And it's different for everyone. Everybody has their own story.
I went to school in Knoxville. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the worst, I was an 8 in elementary school, probably a 7 in junior high school. Nobody ever picked on me in elementary school, where the nuns kind of sheltered me. Then I went off to military school down in Chattanooga, McCauley School, and I didn't have any nuns to shelter me, and I was kind of on my own.
Prior to coming to speech therapy, whenever I would stutter, I would have a lot of emotions come up. I would feel embarrassed and angry and kind of afraid and just want to run away. And whenever I stutter, my whole body would lock up. That makes it very difficult to control what I'm saying and to control my breathing and all these things.
It was a lonely time, and I had to go through some of the bullying, but at some point I got around all of that. But grade school, and then even through high school, it was really hard. And this was in the 50s, or the early 60s, and I think it was because I was so confused about what a stutter was. I thought that there was something really wrong with me. I thought I wasn't doing something right. I thought it was my fault.
I was not in an environment where stuttering was really okay, and so I learned to just avoid stuttering in any way that I could. So for most of my life, I just didn't talk, like most of my childhood, or I whispered if I did, but mostly my brother just talked for me.
It was a little rough. I mean, really hard to speak to a lot of people. You're looking to answer a lot of questions in class. You never really wanted to be the person that was called on in class. Guys were a lot meaner than the girls. Girls typically were very compassionate. You really had to have thick skin and really be able to back yourself up.
In a lot of the therapy I went through, I felt like I was in there an hour, and then it was all over. And then I had to go out into the real world. I think some therapists, at least in the early days, they had their schooling, and they knew what they were supposed to do, but that didn't let them treat their clients, in a holistic manner.
Stuttering is just different from other speech disorders.
I guess the research has come a long way, but we're still sort of stuck. We know there's probably something to do with genetics, and we probably know that there's something in the environment that triggers it, but we're still not sure exactly what the genetic contribution is or how the environment might trigger it. And it's a disorder that's hard to understand because by nature it's involuntary, but I can do things to bring it under control, like I'm doing right now. I'm stretching a few sounds out, speaking a little bit slower, but I think what people who don't stutter, it's hard for them to understand is why I can be really fluent right now, but then I can go out into the real world and maybe have to order food at a restaurant, make an important phone call, and I will go back to stuttering. Until I open my mouth to talk, nobody knows that I stutter. So, you know, when we see kids who stutter, or even adults who stutter, one of the easiest things to hide from it is just to be quiet and not say anything. And these are things we have to recognize as symptoms that as you stutter longer and longer, they can be very debilitating.
You really learn to be on your own. And I did single people sports. I did wrestling, I did shot put in track, I did singles tennis. I did things that I didn't have to communicate with people with. And I got along pretty well in high school and graduated.
The reason I wrote the book is because stuttering is such a lonely existence. And I just wanted young people who stuttered to know that there was some help out there, and that they weren't the only ones. And so I kind of wrote it as a you know, you're not the only one. We all go through this. It's not the end of the world, and things do get better.